Hey guys, it's Fred. Here's a video talking about one state discussing qualified immunity, doing away with it for police officers in that state. And this is a topic that often comes up with police departments, police officers, and my thinking on it is there's already in place, if a police officer is negligent, careless, reckless, and all these different things, and it can be proven, of course, then you've got civil rights violations, things like that. But with the way that police officers' conduct has been acting over the last few years, it may become necessary to remove qualified immunity. And the reason why is maybe even let the police officers, if they want to get further insurance, if they want to be bonded and they feel they need it with their demeanor, then let them pay for their own insurance to cover their actions. They can pay the bond rather than the city paying higher premiums when there's so many lawsuits in a department. That's just my thinking. I think that most police officers, I don't think most police officers overreact or abuse people. I really don't. I know the videos that I post, they are, but that's the ones that I'm posting. That's the ones that are actually abusing people, and there's video to back it up on what they're doing, and they're definitely misusing their authority. Anyway, let's watch this and we'll comment at the end maybe.
Back here now, state lawmakers are debating qualified immunity for police officers.
22 News State House reporter Olivia Ray explains what qualified immunity would mean and has arguments for and against it.
Qualified immunity for police officers was a hot-button issue here on Beacon Hill in 2020, around the height of the Black Lives Matter movement. And now, lawmakers are considering similar policies once again. Qualified immunity protects law enforcement officers from liability in civil lawsuits, unless their conduct violated statutory or constitutional rights. It is intended to protect police officers from unnecessary lawsuits and ensure they can properly continue their duties. But some say it just shields them from accountability for their actions. During a Beacon Hill Judiciary Committee meeting last week, lawmakers considered a bill that would remove the requirement for plaintiffs to prove threats, intimidation, or coercion by a law enforcement officer in a civil rights lawsuit. And it faced significant pushback from officers. One lawyer representing police officers says this will cause frivolous lawsuits and impede law enforcement's ability to do their job. He says there are already accountability mechanisms at the federal level and through a standards and training commission, saying, quote, "This is not about shielding misconduct. What does not exist is a state ready for the wave of litigation."
Standing and these committees that evaluate these officers that are reported for doing wrong, that's the problem. Most administrators, sheriffs, chiefs, commissioners, they're not reporting these officers. They're merely allowing these bad officers to resign and go down the road and get another job. So they're transferring the problem from one department to another department, only to have more citizens to be beaten or abused. And that wouldn't be a problem if sheriffs and chiefs and administrators actually fired the officer and pulled their certification. That wouldn't be a problem. But see, they're not doing that. They're merely allowing them to resign and move on down the road because they don't want to deal with the legal issues if this officer is possibly going to file a lawsuit against the department. Well, if the evidence is that cut and dried that the officer is abusing people and mistreating people, then so be it. Let them sue. That will all come out in court.
This bill would invite. Lawmakers who had previously recommended removing the language say there are many other instances of egregious behavior beyond threats, intimidation, or coercion, and getting rid of the requirement would allow more plaintiffs to get justice. House committee members will need to make a recommendation on this policy by late September, and they're tasked with balancing protections that come from qualified immunity with the needs of plaintiffs seeking restitution.
It's real simple, guys. If you're a police officer and you don't want to be sued, don't mistreat anybody. Don't mistreat. Use whatever force you have to use to effect the arrest Once the handcuffs go on, hands come off. You don't throw to the ground, you don't beat, once they're handcuffed. And if they've got their hands behind their back, I see a lot of people, they'll put their hands behind their back and they're compliant. They're not trying to resist, but the officer will grab them and sling them to the ground. That's abuse. That is the same as being restrained. It's just not normal behavior. We're better than that. We don't have to be like that. We're not there to beat people down. We're there to take them from point A to point B, let the judge, the jury, and the prosecutor issue the punishment. And if we don't enjoy doing the job, or we don't want to do the job without beating up on people, then maybe it's time to find another job. Let's bring compassion back for mental illness, for having a bad day. Everything's not mental illness. It may just be somebody having a bad day, a bad moment, where rather than ordering the person to do something, we sit down and ask, hey, let's do this. I know that don't sound like what police officers are accustomed to. That doesn't give you the big macho looking attitudes that we tend to get in law enforcement. But we need to go back to the basics. We need to go back to what works. And sometimes compassion goes a long way. Sometimes the old saying, you can catch more bees with honey than vinegar, is true. That's just Fred's thoughts. Thanks again for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share.